I'm at Jasper-Pulaski Fish and Wildlife Area in northern Indiana today, and yes, if you can hear that sound, it's the sound of sandhill cranes. They're doing flybys over the top of me. I've never been here before, so I'm sort of circumnavigating the park accidentally, hoping to return to the sandhill crane observation deck that I stopped at just before sunrise. It's kind of hard to tell because it's really dark, but it's a clear 20 minutes after sunrise. So I'm going to make my way back to the observation deck. I think that'd be a good place to get my bearings. There's a little trail that goes out to the observation deck. It goes through this neat little woods. I don't know if you can hear it, but the sound of the cranes is deafening. I found cows. No cranes out in the field, lots in the air. A friendly local hunter tipped me off that there are not very many cranes in the wildlife area at the morning, that they come in during the evening and stop for the night. So he told me there's a good spot close to the power station, and he sort of just told me to direct myself to the power station by the smokestacks, but I can't see him, so I'm actually following these transformer lines to try and get to the power station, so hopefully I can see some cranes this morning, because I don't have time to stay in the wildlife area all the way to the evening. Well, I see smoke, and that's good, because once I get to this spot, I'm gonna give you the photo tips I promised, and don't act like you don't need them. I've seen your Instagram. So I think I found a crane spot. The cranes are loving it. You can probably see them outside over my shoulder there. They're just flocking in and in by droves to get here to this prime feeding ground. There's a nice little spot here that I'm in to pull off this highway. There's lots of traffic behind me, as you can see in here, but I've got good access here to the birds, and the longer I sit, the more comfortable they get with my presence here. I promised some photo tips in the teaser for this video, so I will give you a few wildlife photo tips for beginning wildlife photographers. This is a good segue into the first tip, which is getting a good pose for your animal. Animals communicate through their behavior, so capturing animal behavior in a still image adds an extra dimension of interpretation. Your viewer won't just identify the presence of an animal, but will be in conversation with it, so you want to make sure it's an interesting conversation. I'd been working on wildlife photography for far too long when I realized my biggest dissatisfaction with my images was in the lethargic animal poses I was capturing. Because I wasn't particularly careful when approaching wildlife, I only gave myself the opportunity to capture the most sedentary animals that weren't prone to exhibit the natural behaviors and mannerisms that make them such spectacular photo subjects to begin with. There's a lot of thought and literature on animal poses, particularly birds, so I found identifying well-known poses from my bursts of images to be a good learning experience. As for in the field, exercising some patience and restraint will go a long way to getting that stunning pose you're looking for, because animals are more likely to demonstrate their personality once you've demonstrated you're not a threat. Or, even better yet, when they're not aware of your presence at all. Bear in mind, I'm not like a world-class National Geographic wildlife photographer, but the advice I feel most qualified to give pertains to beginning photographers. I do have some things to share that I think will help advance your cause, many of which didn't occur to me till years into my pursuit of wildlife photography, and some of which, like this, I had to hear from other people. Next tip, which is light. I know you're thinking wildlife photography, that's all outdoors, we're not supplying any light, but it's helpful to keep in mind what kind of light you're working with. For example, today it's overcast light, so it's pretty even, non-directional, and uniform. First off, don't let anyone tell you there's a right or wrong kind of light for any subject. You're the photographer, and you light your photograph to your vision and taste. But if you're not mindful of the light, you may miss the opportunity to take that photograph to its full potential. As a wildlife photographer, you'll be working in the morning and evening a lot, meaning the light won't just have a certain quality, but also a very particular direction. Don't just let those shadows fall wherever, use them to help convey the story. If shooting into the light, consider making creative silhouettes or high-key photographs, and placing the light in front of your subject will give you lots of contrast and a vibrant palette to work with. Side lighting is fine too, for the added drama of a subject in half shadow, but take advantage of that situation by giving due deliberation to what the light emphasizes in your subject. Your image will have the most impact when the light looks like a well-considered feature, not an accident.
So it's not so much a matter of controlling the light as it is being aware of the light. Your awareness will make sure that you're working with the light and not fighting it.
This has been great, but I think I've had my fill of photographing cranes in cornfields, which is relevant to my last tip. I think I'm going to dive bomb down to Goose Pond Fish and Wildlife area in Greene County and wrap up this Hoosier Safari. As with the light, there's no right or wrong place to capture an animal, but getting a crane feasting in a cornfield is like if I came to your house on Saturday morning and photographed you inhaling a McGriddle in the middle of a Netflix binge in your hangover robe. It has value in its truth to life, but it's not flattering, and personally, I want to flatter these animals. I want to show them off in their Sunday best, all dressed up for church. So I took flight for a more formal venue. I think we'd have to agree this is much better than a field of corn. Not only do the sandhill cranes love these wetlands, but it's also attracted a couple of whooping cranes, and snow geese are starting to come into the area. What's astounding is a lot of these cranes have made the exact same trip all the way across the state that I did today, just by the power of their wings and Indiana corn. The reason I've come to Goose Pond and the reason I like photographing here so much is there's such a wider variety of habitat to photograph with here. And that leads me into my last tip, which is be sure to pay attention to the background and the foreground. The environment you feature your animal in may not be the primary element of your image, but in a market saturated with wildlife photos, it could be the thing that sets your image apart. For professional photographers who work with long, fast lenses that just melt away the background, this consideration may just mean composing the animal against a pleasing color, but I assure you, the photographer makes that consideration every time. For the rest of us, working with wider focal lengths means a lot more of the image is going to be comprised in the environment. So why not use that extra frame space to compose the animals in as beautiful a setting as possible? As a rule of thumb, if I'm not happy with a scene without an animal in it, just adding an animal isn't enough to make me fall in love with it. Making this improvement can mean being more selective about your shooting locations, or just paying attention to the backgrounds in your tracking bursts to make sure you've not wasted precious eyeball real estate on power lines, half buildings, and other unintentional photo debris that isn't relevant to the meaning of your image.
This tip's also really good if you like to attract birds to feeders. So if you just build something pretty and natural looking next to the feeder for the bird to perch on, the birds will love it, you'll have fun building it, and your pictures won't look so much like advertisements for bird feeders. They'll look like advertisements for birds. Birds! Are you tired of your cat being stuck in a tree because it can't fly? Tired of all the roadkill around, but you don't know how to get rid of it? You should try birds. Birds. I'm telling you, you can't beat them. Okay, so if I had to summarize these tips in one way, and I don't, but I will. I think I would summarize it like this. Birds! I would summarize it like this. So if you asked a portraitist what makes a great portrait, they'd probably tell you, a good setting, a good pose, and good light. And if you came to me as a landscapist and said, Matt, what makes for a standout landscape? I'd probably say something like a good setting, a good composition, and good light. So I think you're catching on to what I'm saying here. My advice generally would be that once you've mastered the daunting task of getting that tiny distant subject in your frame, finding them, getting them in focus, tracking them around while they're doing their crazy stuff, getting your camera settings right, and firing off an exposure. And that is something you should be proud of, and you should share it. But if you want to take it to the next level, my recommendation would be just apply basic photographic principles, really basic 2D representational art principles to those images to take them from competent captures to striking visual images. So if you found these tips helpful or they inspired you at all, please help them reach other photographers by clicking the thumbs up button. Or if you want to keep them all to yourself, just don't do anything. Or if you hit the upside down thumbs down button, it'll actually take tips away from photographers who already have them. That'll really give you the edge. In the next video, I'll be exploring some crunchy gravel roads to do some rural scenics in Illinois. So if you like getting ideas for things you can do with your camera here in flyover country, like exploring these little fish and wildlife areas in Indiana, you'll love what I'm doing on flyover photography, exposing the unseen, scene by scene. Hit the subscribe button and you'll get notified as soon as that next video comes out. Until then, keep an eye open and a foot forward.